Megan Cassidy. I'm here because I have been an employee of the San Francisco Chronicle for 5 years now. I can't afford to live in the city that I cover and that I love. I'm a mother. I can't afford to do a job that I love. We're fighting for fair wages to be able to. Fighting for fair wages to be able to do the job that we do best in the city.
House prices, just survival.
House prices are awful. My partner and I keep having to move farther and farther out from the city, and we've lost a lot of good workers in the last couple of years. We recently had a person who was a Pulitzer finalist. She just left, even though she loved the job, but she left because of money. There are so many people here who are mid to late career that just don't see a future, and those are the kind of people that the young people learn from. They're mentors. They're the ones that know the city the best. We can't afford to keep losing them.
And the turnover?
Turnover is really problematic at the Chronicle, and we know that the cost of living in this city is difficult. We don't think we're Google. We know that. We do this job because we love it, and we want to be able to stay here.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
What's your name?
For coming out here and supporting the Guild in our efforts for a fair contract.
I am a 24-year reporter for the San Francisco Chronicle, plus 2 years as a paperboy, and I am very frustrated that we have so many great journalists here and they may not be able to stay. I'm here for the young journalists who want to live in this community and cover this community and aren't getting paid enough to do that. And
How long have you worked at the Chronicle?
I'm sorry?
How long have you worked at the Chronicle?
I've worked at the Chronicle since 1999. I was a paperboy for 2 years, from 1982 to 1984. This is where I've always wanted to work. This is where I wanted my career to end. And I'm just really frustrated that that's going to be hard because we're not getting a fair contract, and frankly the people who are younger and coming in, I worry that they're not going to be able to live here and have the kind of career that I've had even.
With the cost of housing, the cost of survival in the Bay Area.
It is so expensive to live here. You hear newcomers coming in and that's what they talk about. They talk about how hard it is to live here and how difficult it is to have a career here, and I want that to end. I'm frustrated.
Jenny. I just want to give one comment, which is that I will say it, as someone who is much newer in my career, I feel really conflicted, right? Because I think I'm in a really good spot in my career. Like, it is considered really lucky to be at an establishment like the SF Chronicle, this close to like my graduation date. I graduated from UC Berkeley last year as an undergrad, and I think a lot of my peers have had to take at least like 2 or 3 fellowships before landing a full-time job, and I have a full-time job here now, and which is why I felt so many mixed emotions when I realized that the pay disparity between me and so many of my other colleagues was, before they raised the minimum ceiling to above what they had before, around $20K, which I think is very unfair. I think I am just able to live off my salary in the city. I can't complain much. I live still as a college student, but I already in some ways cut corners living in the city, so I can't even imagine what my colleagues who get paid much less than I do, even with that slight floor bump, have to do in order to survive.
And having a family?
And having a family too. I'm still just a single person living in the city. I think I have it the easiest compared to other folks who frankly deserve the same amount I get paid for.
And Hearst is a rich corporation, apparently.
They are. They own magazines and
yeah, they like to tell us that in meetings.
Yes.
But then they don't like to show that.
Yeah, precisely. So yeah, they have a lot of power.
I think Jenny and I are in a very similar boat in terms of this is both our first full-time job out of college. And I really love working here. I really love my job and my team. I really like and have a good relationship with my manager. And I think it's a job I'd really want to keep for a long time, but with the cost of living in the Bay Area and our salaries, it's kind of hard to imagine that sometimes. And I've seen already, even just in my 2 years here, a lot of people leave because they could just get paid more elsewhere. And that's meant we've lost a lot of knowledge. And I think it's a bad thing for the paper and it's a bad thing for us. And so it'd be great to see them invest more in retention so that this is really a place where people could stay and build careers and lives.
And you need senior reporters on subjects, so reporters who know the industry, know the subject.
Yeah, I mean, I think like we just need to be able to keep knowledge here in the organization and in the Bay Area instead of just seeing this paper as a way for people to come do maybe like cheaper work as they learn and then move on to jobs where they can get paid more.
Save local news! Save local news! Save local news!
I'm Hunter Paniagua, staff rep for the Pacific Media Workers Guild. We've been working with this group for a very, very long time, working on this contract. We've been making progress, but we're still pretty far apart on some really key things. So this group is taking action to speak up for what they think is important, and I'm really excited about it, really encouraged for them, and just really proud of them for standing up for themselves and to defend the work that they do.
And newspaper workers have been under threat in this country, layoffs, a lot of pressures. Do they face the same threats here in San Francisco at the Chronicle?
Absolutely, yeah. It's not always, we're not seeing as much of the severity of like cuts and layoffs as we do some other places, but the Chronicle has shrunk from where it was even 5-10 years ago. So they know there's something here to preserve, and they see the signs of the things they need to protect to make sure we keep the retained and talented journalists here. So this is why they're fighting for it, to combat those trends and those nationwide things that we're seeing elsewhere, to make sure they don't happen here as hard as they have been.
And the cost of housing for journalists, is that causing a turnover here?
Absolutely. So that's the churn and the turnover. It's largely due because of the cost of living. So many of our members here don't actually live in San Francisco. They live in Oakland. They live in the East Bay. They live in Contra Costa County. So they know that in order to live here and to cover this community, they need to be able to afford that, and that's a big part of their platform too.
And inflation is going up. Are wages going up?
That's another key thing. We got to get wages going up too, because the minimum salaries and the scales that we had 5 years ago now seem like pennies compared to what it actually costs to live. So making sure that those salaries keep growing with them and stay for the lifetime that they're going to be here, that's really the big key stuff, as long as some other important stuff that they're fighting for as well.
And how long have they been in negotiation?
We're actually about to hit 2 years, so we're about to enter year 3. I think it started sometime in the summer of 2020, which is not the most productive time to begin anything. I got involved about a year ago, so I've been involved with them for about a year, and we're getting there. We're getting there, but it's been a very much longer than it should have been. But I'm happy to see progress, and hopefully as they take action like this, that'll get us over the finish line.
And they spend a lot of money on lawyers to fight you? I mean, the cost of the money for lawyers.
The attorney at the bargaining table, he's in-house. He works for Hearst corporate, so hopefully they're not spending too much extra money than they do. But yeah, we see plenty. When you look at Hearst as a corporation with all their various tentacles and all the things they're in, they're doing very well as a company. It's time to reward the journalists for that work too.
And they're property developers. This building's maybe going down. What's happening with that?
I don't know anything about that. I know we had a story, one of our members wrote a really interesting story about Yahoo moving out and some of the vacancies, not just here, but all over. So they own this building. It's the most beautiful building in this neighborhood, and I'd hate to see it become disassociated with the Chronicle. But I'm hopeful that there will always be a presence of the Chronicle in this building, and hopefully keep things moving forward to help support that too.
And what can people do to support the journalists here?
Definitely amplify their messages. We encourage people to send letters to the editor, speak up. For people out on social media, those messages go a long way too. We'll be sharing more information in the coming days too, for ways for the public, community members, activists, and things like that to amplify the message as well.
Can they go to the website of the local?
Yeah. So mediaworkers.org. We'll have information there as well, and as well to follow them on Twitter, SFC Guild on Twitter. We'll have plenty of information out there as well. And then hopefully, we'll be celebrating the end of a contract cycle here pretty soon.
People need something.
Young people do need something to look forward to, and I think a union gives us hope that we can envision a livable future. Right now, I think increasingly a lot of us are just angry and annoyed that it is so difficult to make an honest living. Some of us work 2 jobs. Some of us are doing the right thing. We're working 9 to 5. We're being good employees, and we feel like we're not being rewarded for being a good employee, and so we're asking for what is right.
And I mean, as I was saying earlier, a lot of young people are joining unions around the country and have never been in unions before. You think that's a trend?
I think it's a good trend. I think young people need to understand that collective bargaining is how good things happen. Like, for example, the weekends happened because unions lobbied for it in the early 20th century. So if we want all of us to live a better life, I think a union is the way to go forward.
Just looking for a fair contract. Been a long time. A lot of people are hurting now, and we think that there's money out there, and we think that what we're asking for is legitimate and fair.
And I heard there's a lot of turnover because people can't afford to stay in the jobs?
Well, it's a bad city. It's a tough city. It's expensive, and the whole area is expensive, so that has to be part of the consideration, right? And you want people to come in here, you have to pay them enough to live in the area.
And can the Hearst afford it? Hearst Corporation?
I don't have their bank account, but I assume they can, yeah.
So what is the problem?
I don't know. I wish I knew. I know our union people are doing a great job of trying to get to the bottom of what the problem is. But
how long have you worked at the Chronicle?
31 years.
And what's your name?
Scott Ostler.
And so what do you cover?
I cover sports.
So the newspaper industry, it seems like it's under attack. I mean, local news is threatened. I mean, just covering this thing is getting harder and harder for journalists.
Yeah, it is. And I know that I'm just a sports guy, but I think it's not only under more attack all the time, but it's more important all the time. You know, it's increasing importance. It's vital to our society, our democracy, the whole newspaper thing. And I think, you know, we're just maybe one small part of it, but we're a very legitimate part of that. And we're just, it's very important to keep this going.
The right to have journalists get your news?
Yeah, it's essential to America, basically, yeah.
So it's a basic issue of getting information.
No question, yeah. Yeah.
I'm Michael Cabanatuan, and I am the unit chair at the San Francisco Chronicle and a member of the bargaining committee. And we've been in bargaining with Hearst for almost a year now for a new contract at the Chronicle. And we've made some progress, but Hearst has been resistant to give us some of the things we really need, which primarily include some kind of, we call it retention pay, but some kind of scales to benefit people who are here beyond maybe 3 years or so. We want to make sure that people here are paid enough that they can afford not just to live in the Bay Area and preferably San Francisco, but to be able to survive and to stay.
And parental leave, that was one of the signs?
Parental leave is also one of the things we're looking for. We want all of our employees, including the ones in Washington, D.C. or Sacramento or other places in the Bay Area, to have the same benefits, which I believe is 8 weeks of paid parental leave that employees in San Francisco do under the San Francisco City Ordinance.
They're fighting that?
They have not agreed to that so far. You know, as we said, we have been making progress, slow progress, and we're hoping to get that sped up. But I think that if people sort of send a message to Hearst that they support us and that they want journalists who know their community and who stick around for a couple of years to cover us, that, you know, that's important.